Hello everyone and welcome to another first time bass singer reaction and analysis. My name is Peter Barber. I am primarily a professional opera singer, music producer, and bass vocalist. And today, after a large number of requests, we're going to be checking out Dimash and Aida singing ULISSE. I've been wanting to check out this one for a while, A, because of the recommendations, B, because Aida is a real opera singer. She'll be the first one that I'm actually talking about on this channel. She won the 2013 Operalia competition, which is probably the biggest and best competition in the world for young opera singers. I think the age limit's 32. I'm currently at the Santa Fe Opera Apprentice Program. There's a guy here who I think got second in that last year. It's an insanely huge competition. The top prize is like $50,000, and Aida won that in 2013. So I'm very excited to see how they sound together because Dimash, as we know, has a lot of operatic influence. He sings with classical technique in much of his music. But as I've said before, since he did not choose the path of full-on opera and he went into the more kind of pop opera, almost cinematic, dramatic kind of music, he's not really a professional opera singer because he didn't choose that path. But Aida did. So it'll be interesting to hear them together. Guys, please like the video. Please subscribe. So many people watch these videos, even people comment, and they don't subscribe. Subscribing really helps my channel grow, so please subscribe. Leave a comment for the algorithm. And if you're really enjoying what I'm saying, if you're getting a lot out of my analyses, consider joining my Patreon for as little as $1 a month. And without further ado, Dimash and Aida singing ULISSE.
На льду победителей Всемирной универсиады Беттина Попова и Сергей Мозгов. На сцене Аида Гарифуллина и Димаш Кудайберген. «Улисс».
Actually, you know what? Before they even start, I will be pausing a lot. That's what I do. That's what I do. If you want to watch this video straight through, I will put a link in the description. You can watch that, and then you can come back here if you want to learn about the vocal techniques they're using, a ton of musical things. That's what I do. I break it down, okay? So if you don't want pausing, go watch the original, link down here, and come back. But let's just talk about this intro just a little bit. Of course, I'm going to focus mostly on the vocal technique, but it's a cool intro, and this is a kind of little vignette of what Dimash's music does, is he has this cool blend of orchestral and electronic sounds. So you have these like almost pizzicato strings going, those plucks you hear, but you also hear very obviously electronic synths in the background as well. And it's this cool blend of electronic and orchestral. It's this cool blend of old and new. And I think it's one of the reasons he's so popular is it's a very unique style. It's a very unique sound. I said cinematic earlier in describing his kind of genre because this same kind of blend is used a lot nowadays in film scores and TV scores. This blend of old and new. So it's really fascinating. I think it's great. And that's all I'm going to say about the intro. And let's listen to the singing. Was it down to a G2? So Dimash, his voice to me, and I think part of this is because I think he over-darkens his sound a little bit when singing classically. It's a very common thing for people, especially newer at singing classical voice, or not that he's new, he's been doing it for a long time, but over-darkening is a very common thing in operatic singing because the operatic sound is one of warmth and darkness. You have to have both the warmth and the darkness, and you have to have a ton of cut in the sound to be able to sing with an orchestra with no microphone. That's real opera. Now this is, of course, different. They're both microphoned, and they don't have to worry about competing with the orchestra because they're being put through sound systems, and the engineers can make them as loud or soft as they want. But Dimash to me always has struck me as a high baritone, low tenor naturally, but then of course he has a crazy, crazy upper extension. Like one of the most impressive in the world. I mean, it's like almost like a sopranist. It really is like a sopranist. But just his technique. So as he gets down lower into this range, it feels more pushed, and it feels like he over darkens more as he gets lower, because clearly his wheelhouse, where he's most comfortable, is up in that high range. I might even say his most comfortable place is up in his head voice and falsetto, which is very rare, and it's one thing that makes him so special. So you can tell, even though this is probably closer to where his speaking voice is, this isn't really where his comfort zone is as a singer. So you can really feel him pushing, whereas me, as a bass baritone or bass, depending on who's my vocal coach at the time, that G, wait, what is it? Is that? Oh, it's just a B flat. Sorry, that's just a B flat. So that even highlights the point more. The down to a B flat 2, you can tell Dimash is already needing to push and really drop his larynx and create that space so he can make that sound. Whereas for a lower voice type, it's very free and open, and there's no need for me to push because that is literally above where my speaking voice is naturally. Usually if I'm speaking calmly, it's usually down around a G or an F sharp or so. If I'm speaking like in one of these videos, it sits a bit higher. But it's just something you can tell about his voice. Okay, a lot of pausing. I'm going to try and move forward a little faster. Oh, there was the G. Okay, there was a G. Cento. So you can feel it's very free and natural for me to sing a G2 operatically, but for Dimash, it requires push to get down there. Now, Dimash blows me completely out of the water in all things high range, so I'm not comparing us here. I'm just kind of highlighting the differences between a lower voice type and a higher voice type. See, that's like barely coming out. That low G is barely coming out in chest voice. See, it's really just, it shows off this part of it's interesting because I think the composer writes specifically for Dimash, and so it's interesting he would write in this range. Now, I understand it gives it a place to go. You know, you don't want to start it out with all the vocal fireworks because then there's nowhere to go. So I understand that. But like this part of his range really doesn't show off anything that's really special about his voice. What's so special about Dimash is everything he does in his high range. In my professional opinion. Now it is difficult to pick out small details when two singers are singing together at the same time. It's kind of the beauty of being in a choir, or the beauty of singing in an ensemble, is that you can make a bunch of not so pretty sounds, but as long as the group sounds good, you're going to sound good. But so two things to highlight here. One, they're both microphones, so we have no idea how loud their voices are without microphones. I've said many times, a fully trained professional opera singer will always be far louder even than someone like Dimash, just because, like I said earlier, he chose a certain career, whereas a professional opera singer chooses to do that all the time and nothing but that. And operatic training really builds up a crazy amount of strength and volume in your voice if you're training properly. Anyway, so we can't tell volume between the two. The sound engineers are going to balance it perfectly in this kind of setting. But what you can tell, and this is going to be really subtle, is that the production, like I said a minute ago, in this part of Dimash's voice, it takes a little more work for him. But you can tell in Aida's voice, It's very easy, which is how you want to be singing all the time when singing opera. You want to be able to make the biggest sound in the most efficient way with the least effort. And you can tell it kind of is just like breath support straight to vocal folds, and then it just comes out like she came out of the womb singing. That's what you want it to feel like it's just so natural, even though it's not. It takes so many years of dedicated training to be an opera singer, but you want it to sound really easy. So let's just go back a few seconds. I'm sure this whole thing's going to be a big duet. And she's not in her wheelhouse either. You know, she is a lyric soprano, I believe, which means she's going to get comfortable higher in her range. Kind of the higher she goes up to about a G5, she's probably going to get more and more comfortable. And then above a G5, she's going to have to start thinking more carefully about how to sing those notes, because it really becomes like walking a tightrope up there. But I think they're both going to open up and get into their real comfort zones here in a little while. Do you hear how easy and effortless and consistent her vibrato is? Now, this is something I understand. Getting used to hearing classical voices, you level up big time in what you hear. Like, I remember when I was a freshman in college and I was dog shit at singing opera. So bad, looking back. But I thought I was great because in my ear, I sounded just like the professional opera singers. Here I am 10, 11 years later, being able to now hear the drastic difference between how I sounded then and how I sound now, how I sounded then versus a professional. And so some of these things I'm describing, a lot of people listening probably won't be able to hear it. Just like literally your brain just is like, it just doesn't hear it. It's just like, it's like advancing your skill in any craft. It's like, if I look at photography, I might see a picture and think it's brilliant, but a professional photographer might be like, this is trash. The lighting's all weird. The angle's not right, blah, blah, blah. And I literally cannot see that because I haven't trained my eyes that way. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with the ears. So if I mention something and you're like, I can't hear that at all, don't worry about it. I guess just take my word for it as a professional opera singer. Anyway, let's keep going. And I keep checking my Fitbit because I try to keep these videos under half an hour. We're doing pretty poorly with that right now, so I'm probably have to pick it up a little bit. Already you can hear in both their, and of course Dimash is still very comfortably in his middle chest range. But Aida there was getting up into her very comfortable full head voice lyric soprano range. And you can hear, for both of them though, because as they ascend, they're getting more comfortable, how much more comfortable that little passage was than, for instance, when Dimash was trying to reach those really low notes in the beginning. That is something you guys will likely be able to hear. Just the fact that it takes less effort for them to sing in that part of their range as it does pushing towards the bottom. There's also, Dimash is getting better vocal fold closure, which means there's less air coming through the vocal folds, resulting in a less breathy, more efficient sound, which is what you want when singing classical technique. Like I said, you want the biggest sound for the least amount of effort, the most efficient sound, and we're getting much more of that now. Now that's low, I think she stayed in her head voice, but that's getting down to the bottom of where Aida would probably ever sing in an operatic performance when competing with an orchestra, because in the less comfortable parts of your range, you lose a ton of power. It is crazy in person to hear the difference between any singer singing a low note, a well-trained opera singer, and them singing a high note. It is like so much radically louder. Even if you have crazy low notes, like even a basso profundo with huge, cavernous, resonant low notes, if they know how to sing properly, they will be way, way louder in their upper range than in their lower range. That's that. Let's keep going. See, like, nave perché, that nave, octave higher for her, clearly out of her comfortable range. You feel it, literally, it drops, of course, in pitch, but you feel it kind of go, ugh, because it's no longer, I mean, she's so well trained. It's like, at that point, it's probably no longer possible for her to really keep it in that same line with the rest of her singing. So just listen to that nave, how it kind of drops out of this beautiful line. You hear that? You guys hear that? One more time. That's how much more beautiful and elegant is that part of her range than that previous part where she goes low. I mean, this is like, and that's some good singing. Like, she's really good. She's a very good singer. So even there, ricerca, whatever the pitch was, that still was that was in her comfort range. It wasn't as low as the previous passage. So even though it dropped in pitch a good amount, it was still within to where she could kind of streamline that whole phrase together. Kept it in a head voice. Head voice created the space, kept it flowing. Now, they sound good together, though. They do. Let me get my little keyboard app out. Oh, come on. It closed on me. High G for Dimash. So this is when we're getting up into Dimash chest belt or high operatic chest range, and he sounds really good up here. That's cool. I like that. You have mostly Aida sustaining pitch and Dimash doing this. Bum, 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 bum. While she's sustaining. That presents a nice contrast. I like that. That's a well-written duet portion there. Actually, we'll go back so you can hear that. Nelle mente e nel cuore. In the mind and in the heart. Come on. Come on. So let's just focus on her voice for a second. High B, that's a B5. Almost a soprano high C. And just listen to how you can tell it still has cut and bite in the sound. The vocal folds are coming together really nicely, but it also has this beautiful warmth. It's like the perfectly produced sound. Oh my gosh. All right, now let's listen to Mosh and see what he's doing. So he's also on a B5. Let's see what it sounds like it's a tough vowel. Prigionieri. I guess that's the word. Prigionieri. I guess is the word they're saying. And that is a really tough vowel to sing up there. Even for someone like Dimash with a crazy high range. And you can tell it's a little squeezed. You know, it's not as free and warm and easy sounding as Aida's. It's still really good though. I mean, by any standard, that is a really solid high B for a tenor. Period. But he's literally singing with one of the best opera singers in the world. It's tough. It's tough to compete with Aida, man. Dimash, in my opinion, might be the most talented vocalist on the planet, just in terms of what he can do with his voice and how much range he has with genre and style. But he's competing against someone, not competing. He's singing, right next to someone who does opera, period. That's what they do, and then she's like one of the best in the world at it. So it's tough, and I can hear the differences between their skill level. Maybe you guys can't, but the point is, Dimash is so good at so many different genres, and like that's really what makes him special. He's so versatile. Beautiful. Nice open nigh. I will not be commenting on the ice skating. This is another thing. If I tried to comment on the ice skating, someone who knows about ice skating would be like, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. Because I'm just like, it looks amazing to me. It looks fantastic. Same thing. You can apply that thing I talked about earlier with like hearing level getting better, eyesight with the photography thing. You can apply it to any skill set. Just like someone who's a beginner is not going to hear or see or feel or understand what a really advanced person is going to be like. So you got to trust in people that kind of know and have spent their life doing something. You just kind of got to trust them at some point. I'm not fluent in Italian. I can do like basic conversation, but I recognize so many of these words because there's such common themes in opera, like l'anima is like soul, cuor, heart, mente, mind, because these are all like really dramatic words and dramatic themes, like love, death, betrayal, the soul. So it's funny. This song is very it's like new age opera, not modern opera, but like new age opera, like blend symphonic, electronic. It's great. I think it's a really cool genre. I think you could put stuff like this in film scores and it would fit really well. Infinite love, right? Take me with you in your mind and in your heart. That was beautiful, Dimash. Beautiful high F sharp on that eval. Okay, so now this musically, this is all repeating now. The biggest difference is I think there's more of this big choir happening. There's more choral involvement. It's in a different key. Earlier they sang that same part, Prigionieri, on a high B natural, and they just did it on an F sharp, so it's a fourth down. I guess he might have gone to the relative dominant of the whatever key they started in, and there we have this straight up like house music kick. We've got this like 4 on the floor pattern, really combining the old and the new. You get into house music, that's like as new as it gets. We'll listen to something. Give me a second. Again, this is going to be a very subtle thing, but you can tell that the voice between the notes is more connected in Aida's voice than Dimash. Meaning, Dimash is punching the notes a little more percussive. Aida has this beautiful connected line going through her whole vocal phrase, which is part of bel canto training. That's part of the training to be a professional opera singer. You want to be able to have that flowing legato line throughout everything you're doing, no matter what. And yeah, you can make an artistic choice not to have that, which is totally fair and reasonable, but most of the time, especially in a piece like this, da, 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 where you just want to have it you've got enough percussion and kicking happening in the background. You kind of want to balance that percussiveness happening with a really flowing, beautiful, connected vocal line. So that's what Aida's doing. Dimash is still doing a good job with it, but Aida's got a little bit more connection in her voice. It's so low in there. It's just odd. This piece is, of course, amazing. The composer's amazing. I've heard a number of his pieces because of Dimash. But it's odd that he wrote some of these parts down so low where they really don't shine. And so low to the point where it really gets out of their comfort zone as singers. Not comfort zone. It gets out of where they sound their best, which is totally fine. I get it. You want to have contrast. You want to have a big range and all that. But usually if you're trying to write for voice specific, especially if you know the voice you're writing for, you want to write where they're always going to sound their best, which for good singers is still a very wide range. It's not like you're limiting to like 1 octave. Like if you're a trained singer, you should have a very good 2 octaves, and Dimash has way more than that. Always us. Beautiful. And even there, up to a high D, a D6. You can tell it's just so supported and it keeps spinning freely, and she keeps the warmth and resonance there. Amazing. Really good. Now what was Dimash doing here? So I think he went from a D5 to a B4, I think, in like a head voice is what it sounds like there. Now we know Dimash can literally sing as high as Aida can. Higher, actually, probably. But he just took the option down here, letting Aida shine on that beautiful soprano high D. And that's it, y'all. That wraps it up. Bravi tutti. Okay, sweet. I finally got to hear Aida Garifullina. Yeah, see? Aida Garifullina and Dimash Kudaibergen. What a duet, y'all. I'm like really almost out of time, so I gotta wrap this up. I hope you guys enjoyed. This was my take as a professional opera singer, as a music producer, as a bass vocalist. Cracking mysteries about the bass voice left and right, because it is a mystery even to people who train people in the opera world. The bass voice is like, what the hell is going on with that thing? So I'm here to enlighten people about the bass voice especially, and then comment on super talents like Dimash. And it was great to hear Aida for the first time. She's a superstar. And guys, please like the video. Please subscribe. Please, if you're still here, subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment, and go check out my Patreon for behind-the-scenes access, early access to my Discord server, early cuts, rough takes. So much cool shit on there. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye. Mwah.